From New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you here on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Friday?
Happy it's Friday. Really happy it's Friday.
Well, sure you didn't have a very happy Thursday. Celtics got smothered, and we're going to talk about that very, very soon.
Yeah.
We got the return of Gilbert Arenas with another amazing take on Nikola Jokic, which we'll get into, of course. Also, the Knicks play tonight in about a half hour. They begin, so we'll get into that right before the game starts, which will be our next topic. But let's start with our first topic of tonight's show, which is indeed the Boston Celtics, who got run out of TD Gardens in a 118-94 loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Karis LeVert, incredible game off the bench, 21 points, but Donovan Mitchell, star of the show. Second half, he lit it up. Total 29 points when the night ended, nearly a triple-double with 8 assists and 7 rebounds to go along with the 29 points. The Celtics, they tied the series. Now the Cavs do 1-1 going into Cleveland, which is not great. You lose home court advantage. I want to know, though, are you surprised that the Cavs absolutely just took care of the Celtics last night?
I am. I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, given the way the Celtics really routed them in the first game. But it's a replay of the Miami series, right? They routed Miami in the first game, and then they lost the second one. They play, I don't know, for as good a team as they are, being the best team in the NBA and the regular season record-wise, and playing so inconsistently at home during the playoffs. I think they have like a 500 record at home.
Yeah, 500. 500
record at home over the last, 2 years? 3 years? In the playoffs. Hey, if you're gonna win your series on the road, I guess having the best record in the NBA during the regular season doesn't help you a whole lot. You're making your life a lot harder for yourself by losing these home games against a team that you really should beat.
Right. So, I mean, last night was very, very weird because really we could say Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're the 1A, 1B, or 1 and 2 combo. But I think if we really take a look at who's the MVP of the team, it has to be Derek White. Where this team goes, it's because of Derek White. Derek White shot 1 of 8 from 3. And Joe Mazzulla's big ideology which was a complete, switch on Ime Udoka's coaching style, was live and die by the 3. Well, you died last night. You shot basically 23%, 22.9% from 3. Meanwhile, the Cavs, very much like the Heat in Game 2, shot incredible from 3. They shot 13 of 28, which is 46.4% from 3. So this is a similar situation to the first series, Celtics Heat, this time Celtics Cavs, where basically Game 2, it's all about the three-pointer. The Celtics didn't hit them. The Cavs did. The Cavs also shot 54% from the floor. Meanwhile, the Celtics shot a very pitiful 41.2%. The Celtics got out-rebounded, out-assisted. The Cavs scored more points off turnovers, dominated the Celtics down in the paint, had better fast break points. The Cavs did everything right. The Cavs did everything incredible. Donovan Mitchell had 6 points in the first half, and normally when Donovan Mitchell is horrible, you're like, okay, they have a shot. That's what the Magic did. The Magic capitalized on Donovan Mitchell not having a great half or a great 3 quarters, and lo and behold, once Mitchell gets it going, it seems like he could light it up from anywhere. Logo threes, corner threes, 25 feet out, 29 feet out. That's what happens, and that's what happened in this game. Donovan Mitchell scored 23 points in that second half. He went 5 of 6 from 3. So when you have that kind of a guy, lighting it up from 3, dominating on every side, he could drive to the paint and make layups. I mean, he's one of the shiftiest guards in the NBA right now. But what I found very fascinating is the Cavs took care of the Celtics without arguably their second-best player in Jarrett Allen. He's out with a rib injury. He's day-to-day. He was out for this game. He's first in offensive rating for the Cavs, second in defensive rating, second in value over replacement. So his backup is not really that great compared to him. He's also He's hands down the best rebounder for the Cavaliers, but it didn't matter because the Cavs, 44-31 rebound differential. And that's without their best rebounder. This just shows a lack of really determination and commitment. Jason Tatum, not a great game. Jaylen Brown, 0 for 6 from 3. I mean, this team lives and dies by the 3, and that's what I talked about in the Heat series. If you're not hitting your threes, what's your second go-to? In this case, it wasn't points in the paint because you got crushed 60-44 with points in the paint. So I'm not saying, ring the alarm bells here, just like I didn't do with the Heat. But am I saying that if a team can start hitting shots and you get into a cold spell, can the Cavs take over? And that's why I was nervous, because of the fact you have so many good players. The Cavs probably, if we're talking about team comparison, they are probably the best matchup until the Eastern Conference Finals if they do play the Knicks. Let's say the Celtics win and they play the Knicks. I think if they play the Pacers, I think the Celtics will take care of them. But if the Knicks play the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, that will be, I think, the closest 1-1 matchup in the Eastern Conference. But right now, you're up against a Cavs team with great defensive players, great offensive skill sets from like Donovan Mitchell, and even if Jared Allen was in there, Evan Mobley had a great game as well. The Cavs, so many facets to this game, and the Celtics just couldn't stop it, or not even that, just couldn't keep up whatsoever. So, I mean, I'm just a little bit nerve-wracking here. So, and I'll say this as well. Darius Garland, tremendous job defensively. You were in Derek White's face the entire time, disrupted a number of his shots, forced him to take shots that really he was uncomfortable shooting, and that's in large part why he went 1 of 8. Drew Holiday, he's I'm not going to say offensive liability, but he's not an offensive help in the large scale of things. Jason Tatum, though, I think a lot of this does fall on him. Now, he was the leading scorer by 6 points. But here's the case. Jason Tatum, this is why we can't put him in the superstardom yet. It's because he can't take over games. Donovan Mitchell took over in the second half. Absolutely took over. Like I said, he went from 6 points in the first half to then adding 23 in the second half. He took over the game. The Cavs outscored the Celtics in the second half 64-40, and that's in large part due to Caris LeVert, 21 points off the bench, incredibly impressive. Donovan Mitchell, 23 points in the second half. Evan Mobley, he had a tremendous game, 21 points. So there is really nothing the Celtics could have done when they get hot like that. And also, when you shoot 11% from 3 in the second half, what are you doing out there? You have to find your next card. If a 10 of spades doesn't work, try to find your next highest card and play that. Yeah. They were playing deuces all over the place.
Yeah, well, they couldn't make the easy shots either.
Right.
They were missing the easy shots, too. They, as you say, Mazzulla is a guy who has them living by the 3.
Yep.
And that cooked them last year in the last game against the Heat, and in other games too, where they went cold. They went cold on the 3-pointer, and that they couldn't win. Now this year they have a chance to do that, to win even without the 3-pointer with Porzingis, but now he's hurt.
Right.
So you could see they missed him last night.
Absolutely.
I think they missed him.
And another aspect that the Celtics don't have that they normally do is a relatively decent bench. When either Tatum or Brown or Tatum and Brown go out of the game, you have Peyton Pritchard and Hauser come in, and normally they could hit enough shots down or play good enough that when Brown and Tatum come back on, you're either maintaining a decent lead or you've maybe even shrunken a deficit. In this case, Sam Hauser did nothing, basically. He took 2 shots. He had 2 points. Even Luke Cornett got decent minutes, especially for a guy who doesn't play that often in the playoffs.
There's trouble with the big guys. The defense, what's his plus-minus?
Cornett was -12 in this game.
-12.
And then Peyton Pritchard, he played nearly 20 minutes. He played perfectly fine. He had 13 points off the bench, had 60% from the floor. You would like him not to shoot 25% from 3, but I'm not going to really, rip him to shreds because the entirety of the Celtics team couldn't hit a 3 for the life of them. So, I mean, you know what's shocking is Al Horford, he can shoot the 3. He led the Celtics in threes in this game. He went 3 of 7. Yeah. Jason Tatum was the only other one to hit more than 1.
Yeah, well, they could have their hands full with the Cavs. The Cavs are a better team than the Heat were.
Absolutely.
Right? They've got all their... and they were missing one of their better players.
Jared Allen, he was out for this game. He's their best rebounder, their best offensive piece, and the second in total value to the team.
Yeah, so they're going to be going to Cleveland now, and will Allen be back for this?
He's day to day, where he's questionable, I'm sure. Yeah. But you can't absolutely fall apart in one singular half. You got to keep going, and that's why I think in this situation, let's say the Celtics lose to the Cavs. I think Joe Mazzulla, I think the Celtics organization and Brad Stevens, the executive, they need to focus on what exactly Mazzulla's doing here. Because Ime Udoka would never let this kind of defensive just breakdown happen whatsoever. You would not let Donovan Mitchell take over a second half like you would in this game. I think that's where the difference between Ime Udoka and Joe Mazzulla is. Now, Mazzulla is more focused on the 3. Ime was focused on defense. And in today's NBA, you might want that more offensive mindset, kind of similar like in the NFL. The NFL is moving from defense into offense, and there's a lot of offense. That's why I think Joe Mazzulla in today's NBA works relatively well, and you saw the Celtics had a tremendous season. But when it comes down to late game situations where you need to have a stop or at least suppress a fiery team like the Cavs can, especially with Donovan Mitchell, I think that's where Ime Udoka would be a better coach in that type of a situation instead of Joe Mazzulla.
Well, I think the other thing with the Celtics is I think after game one and the way they played in the last few games of the last series where they were dominating, right?
Yeah.
Winning by 25, 30 points, they got complacent. And that's a coaching issue. That's a coaching issue
Absolutely.
with Mazzulla. You can't let your team get complacent. You got to come out with the fire every night. It's like the first game of the season. You have no record. Don't look back. Don't look forward. Play in the moment and play your heart out. And they definitely didn't do that last night. You could see it on the floor.
Right.
They didn't look like they were into it. You mentioned Derek White. I agree with you. He's been a spark for them. He's been the 20-point scorer at least. He only had 10 last night. And you're right. Garland played great defense against him, and had 14 points on his own. So that was a critical factor in this game. But the two bigs for the Celtics, Tatum and Brown, they've got to come up bigger when Porzingis is out.
Right.
And I saw Porzingis sitting over there on the bench. He's not going to play in this series no matter what. So it's up to these guys to really step it up, replace his points and his defense out there to cool down the Cavaliers, who scored 118 points last night.
Right. I'll also say this. I want to make a comment about this. Jason Tatum in the post game, we always think the Celtics based on the talent they have, and we call them sort of a super team. And then he said, after this loss, he said, quote, "I mean, that's the narrative you might see on TV, the idea that we have a super team. It's twofold, right? We didn't have the coach of the year. We didn't have the MVP. We only had 2 All-Stars. You say we're a super team, but we didn't get awarded like we are." Well, yeah, you know why? Because you have so many talented players. Porzingis is incredibly talented. You have, obviously, you and Brown are both incredibly talented. You had 27 points a game. Brown had 23. Porzingis had 20. Derek White, yes, you can call these guys maybe not superstars or stars, but they are incredibly good at what they do. This is not the type of role player that comes off the bench. These are guys that fit their roles exactly as they should. For instance, Derek White, incredibly sharp shooter, 39.6% from 3. He was a sharp shooter this year. We even had Drew Holiday. He shot 43% from 3.
You only have 4 points last night.
I want to see more of that 43% that you had in the regular season. I'd like to see it in the playoffs.
What happened to him last night? He did nothing.
And that 43% is not on like 2 attempts a game. No, these are on nearly 5 attempts a game. So you're shooting a decent amount of threes. You're just got to hit more of them.
Yeah, well, he was 0 for 2 last night, and he didn't have much of a game at all in 35 minutes, 2 of 7, 4 points. 2 personal fouls, 3 assists, a couple of steals, 1 rebound.
Yeah.
2 rebounds, sorry. 1 offensive, 1 defensive. He's got to come up bigger than that. He just got a 4-year extension.
Right. And he's a relatively older guard, too. So they're paying him for what he could bring, potentially.
Yeah. We'll see what they do tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It's going to be big. I think they got to win. If they go down 1-2, right, then that's a serious thing for them, I think, particularly without Porzingis available.
Absolutely. And then if Jared Allen comes back and he's already putting up, he's like the 3rd highest scorer on that team, and you can't stop them without him. You get out-rebounded by this much, 44-31 without the Cavs' best rebounder. You're going to need to step it up big time, and Missoula's got to be definitely on their case about this. However, we saw this in the last series, and the Celtics took care of the Heat. But the Heat were also without their best player. Donovan Mitchell's playing in this series. So they have to maintain a level of consistency that we have seen very slight glimpses of against lesser-tiered teams, like the Miami Heat. You have to bring that same mentality and that same production against a better team like the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, let's get into our next topic here. So, the New York Knicks play tonight in about 16 or so minutes. Tip-off begins a little bit after 7. However, OG Anunoby is out for this game after injuring himself in the previous game. And Jalen Brunson is questionable with that right foot injury. It was a weird injury. He thought it might be a hand, then it came out at a foot. He came back sort of like Willis Reed did, and it was incredible. Incredible second half. I think he scored 36 points, and he only played. He missed an entire quarter essentially. He's questionable for Game 3. His production, we don't know. He had a foot injury, came back, and looked phenomenal. We'll have to wait and see. However, the Pacers, and especially Rick Carlisle, little bit of complaining happening on their side, talking about
crybaby.
Basically, there were, I think it came out 78 missed calls that the Pacers sent into the league. I mean, this is not great. And also, Rick Carlisle complained that the NBA doesn't like the small market teams. They're against the small market teams, which is kind of funny because there are smaller marketed teams than the Indiana Pacers currently in the playoffs today, like OKC, and they're the number 1 seed. I don't understand that. So I don't know. Who do you think will take Game 3 tonight, the Pacers or the New York Knicks?
Yeah, looking pretty good for the Pacers if Anunoby is out and Brunson's questionable. They might be smart to sit Brunson and let him rest.
I don't know if they're going to do that.
I don't think they're going to do that, but, they're going to be on the road. They're up 2-0. So I think that it's going to be tough for them to win tonight. I think the Pacers are going to come out strong, and I think there's a little bit of back and forth here regarding this criticism of the officiating by Rick Carlisle, who got fined $35,000 for shooting his mouth off. Got kicked out of the game after he got 2 technical fouls. He said he was questioning the integrity of the league and the officials, and that announcement was made by Joe Dumars. He said small market teams deserve an equal shot. Come on, give me a break. I mean, Josh Hart, they ran that back by him, who's played for a number of small market teams in his 9-year career. He said, "No way, Knicks haven't won a chip in 51 years."
Yeah. So
how can you say that the officiating is favoring the big market team? I think that it's sour grapes. He said there were, in the first game, 29 calls the officials got wrong. He didn't submit that grievance to the league, but later on, after the next game, they filed a complaint saying 78 bad calls over the 2 games. So I think that it's sour grapes on their parts. He said that the New York's physicality is rewarded and the Pacers is penalized time after time, citing Josh Hart hitting Tyrese Halliburton in the back. Hart was asked about that, saying, I was going for the ball. I touched the ball. Said I might have bumped him a little bit. I was just trying to make a play on the ball. He says, Rick says whatever he wants, whatever he feels, that's nothing to do with us. I'm not so sure I agree with that. He's saying it because he feels that the Knicks are fouling and there's no calls being made. He thought it was, Hart says it's pretty disrespectful to discredit how we're playing.
Yeah.
He said the small market team thing, no way. Knicks haven't won in 51 years. They don't get a fair shot. That's idiotic. So I think that's going to be, the emotions will be high tonight.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens to Josh Hart out there on the floor, whether he gets knocked around a little bit.
He might.
Game.
He might.
He's a tough guy, though, I must say.
Whether or not they called it, though, that's a different thing. Because, yeah, Josh Hart, there was one call that was blatantly obvious, a push in the back of Tyrese Halliburton that should have been called. However, I will say this, though. The officials do come out during their pool report at the end of the game to say how many calls were officially missed. And it turns out of those 29 missed calls in Game 1, 4 were actually should have been called and 1 shouldn't have been called, which there was a kickball and Aaron Nesmith. Well, you can't really review a kickball call. That's not a reviewable play. Was it the right call? It turns out no, but you can't review it. So you can't really change the outcome of that. However, what I find funny is out of those missed calls, so let's take out the kickball violation because you can't review that. Whether it's right or wrong, so be it. It came out that it shouldn't have been called a kickball, but since it's not reviewable, I'm taking it out. So out of the 3 missed calls, 2 of them should have been on the Pacers. So if you want to call it like that, you're shooting yourself in the foot twice and only getting 1 in return. Because Miles Turner, according to this, should have been called for a defensive 3-second violation with 1:19 left in the fourth quarter. 1:19, that's clutch time. That's a pretty significant call there. Dante DiVincenzo should have been called for an illegal screen with 53.6 seconds remaining. And finally, Miles Turner should have been called for an illegal screen on Dante DiVincenzo with 10.7 remaining. So these are like late game important calls, 2 of them going against the Pacers.
Yeah.
So some of these missed calls
are important.
Maybe keep them under wraps a little bit. And now you're complaining about, the market of your team. That's what a fan talks about. That's not what a coach should be talking about. How about this? You play better. You don't, literally, in game 2, when Jalen Brunson went out, the Knicks couldn't score a basket. Then in the second half, Jalen Brunson comes back, and oh my God, the Knicks are hitting everything now. So how about you stop the guy who's averaging 35 points a game in the playoffs? How about you stop him a little bit better? Just an idea. He's averaging 36 in this series. Stop him, maybe. Now, the Pacers have trouble stopping anybody on defense because they're a horrible defensive team. They're one of the worst. I think they're bottom 5 in the league or bottom 3 in the league in defense. How about this? Play better defense. Your offense is great.
Yeah.
Play better defense.
That's not how they're constructed, right?
That's
they're
true.
the highest scoring team in the league. They make up for their lack of defense by hitting a lot of threes. Right?
That's true.
So I think Hart said it best. He says at the end of the day, it's who's playing best.
Correct.
It's about going out there and playing the game and competing at a high level.
Yeah.
And that's what the Pacers probably are going to do tonight. I'd be surprised if the Knicks win.
I would as well, especially with Anunoby out, who literally, when Brunson went out, was the reason why the Knicks stayed in that game. He dropped 22 when the Knicks needed him to score the most, and he hasn't been that type of guy to take over a game offensively like that. He was brought in mainly as a defensive piece and a guy who could occasionally hit a nice corner 3. He was the reason why they stayed in game 2. And then in the second half, Brunson's back. Guess what? You got outscored 67-48. Maybe don't let that happen. Maybe you play basketball. Just an idea. And by the way, the free throws, if you want to take out, the free throw percentage. How about this also? In the second half, don't shoot 33% from the free throw line. That gets you an extra 6 points. And instead of you losing by 9, you lose by, 4? 3. Excuse me. You lose by 3. It's a little bit of a close game. You hit your free throws. The Knicks, on the other hand, did hit their free throws. They went 78%. Don't love that percentage, but you made 11 out of your 14. The Pacers only made 3 out of 9. Hit your free throws when you get the calls on you, which this is the NBA. It's also the playoffs. We've seen Jalen Brunson get basically assaulted when he drives. No call. They're swallowing the whistle because it's playoff basketball. These missed calls, isn't that what fans complain about always? In the regular season, everything gets called. You know what?
That's basketball. It's going to happen. People are not perfect. There's no way you could have a computer making these calls. There's no artificial intelligence out there that could replace the refs in a basketball game. In baseball, it's a little different, right? You could
the minor leagues are doing the automated umps. Yeah,
automated ump. So you could put a chip in the baseball and you throw it, and the strike zone has a electric field around it, and you can tell whether there's a strike or not. You can't do that in basketball. Basketball is a freewheeling game. There's lots of contact. There's the ball's moving fast. It's a really fast game, so the calls are going to get missed.
Right.
It's going to happen.
And, of course, whenever you slow something down to a quarter of the speed, you could probably pinpoint on every single, replay, you could probably pinpoint 3 or 4 things that should have been called. But when it's live basketball, it's very hard to make some of these calls. And I just find it a little bit funny how we always talk about in the NFL, the refs ruin the game. And in the regular season, the refs call everything. In the playoffs, when they're swallowing the whistle, the refs should be calling way more fouls than they normally do. I mean, we want our cake and we want to eat it too. Just, come on. What do we want? Do we want the refs to be involved? Do we want the players to play? If you're talking about missed calls here and we're letting the players play, then stop complaining about it. If the refs get in the way of games like they have in NFL games, then we're like, okay, hold on. Let's figure this out. But no, we're talking about refs not calling way more fouls than they should. How the hell do you come up with 78 missed calls? That's my question.
I think that's impossible.
Oh, you took it every minute? You're like, okay, technically that's
almost every call in the game. How many calls are there in a game? 78 seems like pretty much every one of them.
Hold on. Let's take a look at the Celtics game. How many fouls were called? There were a total of 35 calls, 35 foul calls in the Celtics-Cavs game. You're telling me you found more than double that? You found more than double the total foul call in the Celtics-Cavs game too. Give me a break.
I don't believe it.
There's no way there are 78 missed calls. I'd like to hear what the pool report says now about how many missed calls in game 2.
They're probably just trying to set themselves up for the tonight's game at home.
I mean, Nick Nurse embarrassed himself, always complaining about the refs in their series. Every game it seemed like, the refs could have done a better job. Missed call here, missed call there. Just play better. Have your guy who you're paying tens of millions of dollars in Tobias Harris, have him hit a couple shots, please.
I know.
Don't have him hit 2 shots or take 2 shots in Game 6. How about that?
Yeah.
Have your players that you're paying tens of millions of dollars
You're not going to win a
make
championship.
shots.
We only got 2 players, really, Maxey and Embiid.
Exactly. Tyrese Halliburton had a phenomenal game in this game. However, when Jalen Brunson's out there, try playing a little defense. Pascal Siakam, who had a very good Game 1, shot 2 of 10 in this game, had 4 points in the second half. How about you have him shoot a little bit better? He scored 14 in the entirety of the game, 7 of 18, but in the second half when it matters, when Brunson's out there, he shot 20%. Have your players play better. Simple as that.
Yeah.
You're going to win if you play better.
As Josh Hart said, at the end of the day, it's who's playing best.
And guess what? When you're outscoring a team in the second half 67-48, you are clearly the better team.
It's about going out there and playing the game and competing at a high level.
Which is what the Knicks have been doing since the beginning of these playoffs.
Yeah. We'll see what they can do tonight. A little banged up.
And you're also...
This is starting to catch up with them a little bit, right? All these guys, they're starting 5, playing almost the whole game every game.
Yeah.
It can't take you to the championship, I don't think. They got to find a way to give them some rest. Maybe tonight's the night.
And that means you need to go deep in your bench, which, by the way, Alec Burks finally played a minute. And guess what? No, he didn't even play a minute. He played 44 seconds. You got Tom Thibodeau. I understand it's the playoffs. Let your players play. You guys are dying out here on the court. You're having, Josh Hart play 48 minutes a game. How the hell can he do it and still put up 15 rebounds and 19 points?
Yeah.
The dude is a machine.
But he's a 9-year player, too. He's not a youngster.
It's going to hit him. I guarantee. Josh Hart?
Yeah. He's a 9-year player.
Yeah. I mean, he's out there trying his best. So the fact that he's still doing this at this level, it's very, very impressive. So tonight, in about 10 or so minutes, tip-off happens. I'm sure by the end of the show, I'll give you an update through the first half hour. All right, we're going to take a break, but coming up, oh, God, Gilbert Arenas back in the news talking about Nikola Jokic's 3rd MVP. It's going to be funny to hear. And also, Frank Vogel, only after 1 season, the Suns are looking for their 3rd coach in 3 years after firing Frank Vogel, and it looks like it'll be Mike Budenholzer. So we'll talk about all of that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the content.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you here on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Gilbert Arenas went on Nightcap, Shannon Sharp's podcast, and gave another beautiful take about Nikola Jokic winning his 3rd MVP in 4 years. Take a listen.
Are we going to just ignore the fact that he is not the go-to guy when it counts? Are we going to ignore the fact that what SGA does at the end of the game, he's a clutch player? That ball goes to Murray at the game. He is the guy who Jokic relies on to hit those buckets. He becomes the number 1 option when the game is on the line. So you're giving the MVP to a guy who, when it counts, has to give it to another guy. And you're saying, hey, young fella, maybe next year. It kind of just takes away from, what are we all doing this for? What is the point of being number 1? Jason Tatum, what is the point of me being number 1? What is the point of us doing any of this if you're not rewarding anything?
I don't know. What's your reaction to Gilbert Arenas' comment, and do you agree with his criticism of Nikola Jokic winning the 3rd one?
We've been through all this before, and I haven't changed my mind. The only little break I'll give Gilbert Arenas on this is he has a point about consistency with picking the MVP, right? There's inconsistency. He laid out some of that inconsistency, what is being rewarded, but I do believe Jokic deserves the MVP this year. He was 10th in points, 4th in rebounds, 3rd in assists. He had more than 2,000 points, 900 rebounds, 700 assists. He's only the second player in NBA history to do that. The other one was Oscar Robertson. That's a pretty decent season, I have to say. And the way and I don't think Arenas appreciates the strategy of the Nuggets, right? They have a strategy. It's a point center. And you've never seen that really. Someone playing point, being a point center who gets the ball and distributes it. And it just happens to be that Murray is a very clutch player, so he finds a way to distribute it to him when he's open so he can hit that shot at the end of a game. And that's being unselfish, and that's making the players around you better. So congratulations, Jokic. I think you deserve that MVP.
Well, I'm going to break this down to two different things he talked about. Who deserved the MVP and talk about, the clutch numbers. I'll first say this. We talk about great players and MVPs and historic players, right? Even Shaq said he thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have won. But do we realize that the GOAT, in a lot of people's mind, the two GOATs, Michael Jordan and LeBron James, they gave up game-winning shots. Paxton, Steve Kerr, you gave up game-winning shots. Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors. Was it LeBron who took the game-winning three?
Kyrie Irving.
It was Kyrie Irving. Even Steph Curry, in the NBA Finals, who took the big-time shots? It was Kevin Durant. In 2 game threes in 2 years, in LeBron's face, KD hit a couple threes. So this idea that the best player, the MVP, has to be the one to take the shots, not necessarily. The best player is the one who makes the players around him better. The best player is normally the best on the team, which Jokic hands down is. So let's talk about the clutch numbers this season. In usage percentage, in the clutch, Jokic in the NBA ranks 6th. Jamal Murray, 71st. In points in clutch time, Jokic is 4th. Jamal Murray is 45th, In field goals attempted, Jokic is 11th. Jamal Murray is 65th. And in field goals made, Jokic is 4th. Jamal Murray is tied for 42nd. So no. We might look at this past playoff series against the Lakers and say, Jamal Murray hit 2 game-winning shots. That's true. But the MVP has nothing to do with the postseason. It has everything to do with the regular season performance, which based on the numbers, Jokic was a more clutch player than Jamal Murray. What about Shai Gilgeous? Well, in points, let's compare him to Jokic now. Once again, in points, Jokic is 4th, Shai is 7th. In field goals attempted, Jokic is 11th, Shai is tied for 20th. And in field goals made, Jokic is 4th, Shai is tied for 7th. So even if we're talking about the clutchness of Shai Gilgeous, Jokic, in the totality of the NBA, still beats him. And not only that, the last one, if we're talking about the team itself relying on those individual players in the clutch, Jokic has more than double the next highest player on the Nuggets in field goals made, field goals attempted, and points. Shai only has 8 more field goals and 21 more field goal attempts than the next highest player on the Thunder. Jokic's difference in points is plus 69. Shai's is only plus 40. So if we're talking about who is relied on more in the clutch for their team, it is hands down Jokic.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to say, but Jokic is a more clutch player than Jamal Murray this season. We could look at those 2 game-winning shots in the playoffs, and we can say, look at that. I'm saying, okay, but last time I checked, the MVP is the regular season MVP, because we have an MVP for the finals, and now we even have MVPs for the conference finals. Not only the NBA Finals. We have the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson Award, which is the MVP in the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. So, no. The numbers say that you're 100% wrong. That no, the Nuggets do not rely on Jokic more in the clutch.
Yeah, those are good stats and very convincing numbers.
Just,
and also, Gilbert
the
Arenas, he thought Jason Tatum ought to be the MVP.
No.
No way.
Luka Doncic and even Jalen Brunson and Giannis deserved it more.
And how about Shea Alexander?
Absolutely.
Alexander had a great
100%,
season
yes.
too. You're right. It's all about the in-season, and I think Jokic is a very fair, defendable winner of his third MVP. Arenas said that he went back and looked at in his inconsistency part. He said there's politics in it. Some player didn't get it when Larry Bird needed to get his third MVP. Yeah, and he's just saying that it's a political thing. And
Embiid last year as well, though. You could say that, we didn't want to give Jokic the third straight MVP.
Right.
It could have been that as well.
Could have been that.
Voter fatigue, and now he wins 3 and 4 years.
Yeah,
he might as well could have, because I think last year's MVP for Jokic, you had a better chance of him winning last year than he did this year. And we even talked about this on the show. Jokic was like minus 7,000 for the MVP. Meanwhile, Doncic was averaging 33 points. Shea was averaging 30. Jokic only 26. So the odds made no sense. But the fact that he won it, I don't think is a problem. But in your mind, who do you think? And the finalists, or like the top three, were Jokic, Shea, and Doncic. Who do you think should have been the MVP, or do you agree that Jokic should have been?
I think Jokic.
Okay.
I pick him. I think the way they play, the way their strategy, and the way he makes that offense go, it's perfect. Yeah. I think he makes everybody around him better. He's playing a position, and he's redefining the center position.
Absolutely.
I think in the way that he comes up with 700 assists in a season. That isn't something you see from a center. That's the first time. He's redefined it. He's redefined the position, the way it's played. A point center. You've never seen that before.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very, very hard, and there's different arguments you could bring, but what's interesting that Jokic, it goes way beyond just, he averaged 26 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. It goes beyond that. So for Shea, he's the first player since 1967 to average 30 points per game with the number 1 seed in the West and not win MVP. The last player was Rick Barry in the 66-67 season. He also joined Michael Jordan as the only guard in NBA history to average over 30 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists on 50% shooting and not win MVP. Michael Jordan in 1989 and 90. He was third in steals and second in win shares.
Yeah.
Doncic, he had the most points per game this season. He had the most rebounds for guards. He was tied for third in assists. He had the most double-doubles and most triple-doubles for guards. He was second in value over replacement for the entirety of the NBA. He's the first player in NBA history to end the season on a 33 points, 33, 9, and 9 stat line. First in NBA history. So the numbers are there. The numbers-wise, Doncic is above all these guys. Jokic, it goes a little bit different because it goes into the deeper stats, the nerdier stats, because Jokic is first in win shares and offensive win shares. He's second in defensive win shares. He's first in box plus minus, first in value over replacement, first in player efficiency rating, and first in on and off plus minus as well. And what's crazy about this, he's doing all of this, having all of that impact in the entirety of the NBA, not only with just the Nuggets, but in the NBA, and he's only 20th in usage rating. These other two guys, they're getting used 35% of the time for their team. So their usage rating is very, very high. Jokic is only 20th in the league. These guys are top 10, top 5 in the league. So he's doing it at a much more efficient level, and that's why he's first in player efficiency rating.
All really good stats, yeah.
Honestly, if we're talking just stats, Doncic should have been the winner. 33 points, 9.2 assists, 9.2 rebounds, 9.8 assists, 48% shooting, and 48% from the floor, and 38% from three. The only part he really loses on is rebounds and field goal percentage. He's better in 3-point percentage, better in assists, and way better, at least in the comparison to Jokic, in points per game.
He plays a different position.
Right. Yeah. But if we're talking about just the numbers, I would give the Doncic.
To me, the MVP is not just about the numbers.
Right.
It's about how you fit into your team's strategy and it's the chemistry of the players and how you make the people around you better. It's just as important to me as the stats. And to me, Jokic is hands down the best.
And that's why I'm not going to disagree with you when it comes to that. My only problem is not that Jokic won it. Is that the race seemed like it was a runaway. Meanwhile, I don't think it should have been. Like I said, the odds last time I looked at the numbers were minus 7,000 Jokic and plus 2,000 Shea. Why?
Yeah.
This should have been a much closer race than it had to be. Yeah. Because the numbers were like, okay, the numbers-wise, we're talking Shea or Luka. But if we're talking about actual, if we actually list out the words MVP, most valuable player, it should be Jokic.
Yeah. Well, do you think the last year's playoff run by the Nuggets influenced and carried over? It carried over, right?
Absolutely, because
the
the last set of knowledge we have for a player is where they ended in the postseason. It's not the last time we saw them in the regular season unless they don't make the playoffs. And in that case, we're probably not expecting them to be top 5 in MVP odds. But when last time we saw the Nuggets, what happened? They were raising a trophy. They won the NBA Finals.
They're not doing so hot now.
I agree with that.
They've lost 2 games to the Timberwolves.
And they look completely outmatched by the Timberwolves as well. They also played tonight.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Do you think the players should pick the MVP? They used to
Like
a long
current
time
players.
ago.
Like
the players that are playing.
What's funny about that is the players even voted Jokic the MVP.
Okay, there you go.
So
no, but do you think they should? I mean, maybe they together with the writers. I mean, that gives the writers something to have for their
right.
That's important. But
the writers.
How about the players? Don't the players? I mean, in the NFL, the top 100 football players are picked by the players.
Right. But the MVP is picked by writers and stuff like that as well.
Right, yeah.
The MLB, isn't the Hall of Fame also done by writers and such?
Oh, yeah.
They don't have a Hall of Fame
Why not let
committee.
the players? The players used to do it way back there. And in one season, this is really interesting. Wilt Chamberlain had 44 points. He averaged 44 points a game and 27 rebounds. He was 8th in the MVP voting.
Who won it that year?
I don't know. I'm not sure who won it. But he was 8th in the MVP voting with 44 points a game and 27 rebounds. Just shows you the players may look at it a little bit differently.
Right.
And that could be really interesting. I think that I'd like to see that. Have both. Have the writers do it and have the players do it and see who whether it comes out the same or different.
Yeah, this is actually crazy. Take a wild guess who won the MVP that year.
Bill Russell.
He did. But his numbers were nowhere near Wilt Chamberlain.
That's because the players know it's all about how you make the players around you play. The 76ers never won much of anything with Wilt, even though he had stats that were off the charts.
Well, that year,
right? Because there was nobody around him, and he couldn't make those players around him better. Bill Russell did that every year.
Well, that year was on the Warriors at that time, but we're talking about numbers of 16.8 points and 23 rebounds compared to 44.8 points and 24 rebounds a game.
The Celtics won the championship.
On 2 more games as well, though. Wilt Chamberlain did play 2 more games, but obviously that's not going to make up like a 30-point differential per game unless Bill Russell's out there scoring 200 points. But, yeah, and by the way, Wilt Chamberlain, and here's what's funny, didn't get a single first-place vote that year for the MVP. Not a single first-place one.
Well, for the MVPs, and historically, Kareem still leads with 6.
Yeah.
Jordan and Russell have 5. Wilt and LeBron have 4. And then there's a bunch with 3, including Bird and Magic Johnson.
And now Jokic.
Jokic and Moses Malone.
Moses Malone, I think, is an underrated player.
He played in a small market team.
Yeah.
Houston. Yeah.
Still, though, when they talk about impact, Moses Malone, 3-time MVP.
Oh, yeah.
I think just because when you talk about the all-time greats, you talk about the guys who had a very, very specific facet of their game. Mr. Fundamental, Tim Duncan, Steph Curry.
Malone, he played also for the 76ers for a while. Yeah.
I'll look it up if you really want to know
I think
the
I'm
answer.
right on that. It's a while ago.
Houston, Philly, Bullets, Atlanta.
Okay, so at the end of his career,
Milwaukee,
he was all over the place.
Spurs.
Yeah. Played for everybody.
He played for a lot of teams. He also played for the Spirits of St. Louis back in 1975.
Wow.
And also the Utah Stars. He played for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Once again, it's another NBA season, another award given out.
Congratulations, Jokic.
And another horrible take by
Gilbert Arenas.
Let's get into our next topic here. So Frank Vogel, this is kind of interesting. Frank Vogel got fired after only a singular season after he signed a 5-year deal with the Phoenix Suns, and he's out of there in a singular season. This will now be the 4th coach that they're looking for in only 4 seasons. They've had 3 coaches every single season for the past 3 seasons, and now they're on to their 4th, which it looks like it'll be Mike Budenholzer, who reportedly is about to sign a massive deal worth upwards of 8 figures which is incredibly impressive and kind of stupid if you think the fact that they have now 3 coaches in 3 years, about to go on their 4th in 4 years. So there's a couple questions here that I want to ask. One, do you think Vogel got a fair shot with the Phoenix Suns? And also, do you think Budenholzer would be a good fit for the Phoenix Suns?
I don't think Vogel got a fair shot. You look at the Timberwolves, they swept them, okay, but they've beaten the champions now 2 games in a row in the second round. So the Timberwolves are a special team this year. I think the Vogel was handed a very tough hand to play with 3 perennial all-stars in Beal, Durant, and Booker, but nobody else. They didn't have anyone else, really. I mean, those guys, they were playing 40 minutes a game in the playoffs and responsible for 71 points of the total points scored in every game. So I think that the team was not going to be successful because they had nobody to sub in, and the other 2 players on the starters weren't that great. They got rid of Ayton, who was a very good center for them. They got rid of
CP3.
Yeah, CP3. And they got rid of Monty Williams, who took them to the finals. So, there's been kind of a revolving door there. I mean, they won 49 games. They had the 3rd highest payroll and tax. But Bradley Beal missed 29 games during the season. So, to win 49 games without him out there at all for a good chunk of the season, I don't think it was that bad a performance by Vogel. And I think the Suns are looking at what can we do. I mean, we still want to be a championship contender with this team that we have. The CBAs makes it really tough for us to execute even marginal moves in the free agent or trade moves. And we can't trade away one of the top 3. That means that we're going to take a step backwards. And we have no draft capital. So, this is about the only thing we can do is try to get another coach that might find some different kind of scheme where Vogel was more a defensive-minded coach, and these guys are all total offense. Maybe the Bucks former coach is a better
like
Budenholzer is a better choice. We'll have to see. But I do think Vogel got a raw deal.
And I'm agree with you. You sign a 5-year deal and you get booted after one season where you got swept. What I do think, though, this move entails is that they know their window is now, we're talking now, razor thin. It was paper thin, and now it's razor thin. Because literally, they've gone backwards now. They made it to the finals, and then every year it's got worse and worse. And now it's just pitiful. It's embarrassing, especially with the amount of talent up front you had. Now for 2 straight seasons, you were very, very front heavy with no depth. Bradley Beal had his worst statistical season, at least points per game wise, since 2015-2016. Your 5th highest scorer was Eric Gordon. Your 4th highest scorer was Grayson Allen. Now, he had an okay season, I'm not going to lie, at 46% from 3. But Grayson Allen cannot be your 4th best player on your team, your 4th best scorer. Yusuf Nurkic didn't have a very good year. He was supposed to be a better version of DeAndre Ayton, which turned out not to be the case whatsoever. Royce O'Neal was playing decent minutes in the playoff series. You can't have Royce O'Neal playing that significant amount of minutes, but you had to because you had nobody else. And now because you're spending so much money, you're so top-heavy, you can't really fill in a team without dealing with a bunch of issues. So I agree with you. I do think that Frank Vogel did not get necessarily a fair shot, but they're trying to find a guy who's dealt with the big 3 before, who's dealt with, maybe varying personalities, who's dealt with significant amounts of talent. Now, Frank Vogel already won an NBA championship. I'm not saying he can't do it. However, it just, towards the end of the Lakers run, it just got embarrassing. Mike Budenholzer, he won an NBA championship. He, with the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 seasons, his winning percentage was nearly 70%. So he's won a lot of games, and that was with Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez and Giannis and Drew Holiday. He knows a lot of talented players. He knows how to work. He knows schemes and whatnot. What I also find fascinating is that we heard about how Kevin Durant complained about Frank Vogel kind of not creating an offense, and the defense was too complicated and shoving Durant, relegating him basically to the corner, not involving him. And then I mentioned when we talked about earlier when the Suns got swept, Frank Vogel then came out and said that he wanted a point guard for the team. But the front office wouldn't get him a point guard because it would take the ball. It would take the balls out of the hands of Bradley Beal and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. What's a point guard's main role?
Distribute.
Exactly. And you can't have Eric Gordon or Grayson Allen or any one of these guys. They even signed Isaiah Thomas, who tried to make a comeback to the NBA. They signed him very late in the season. But you need a true point guard. You need a guy to distribute. A lot of teams who are very, very successful and have good offenses have a very good distributor who can get the ball around to their key playmakers. Tyrese Halliburton, average over 10 assists. James Harden, over his career, it was a phenomenal assist guy. Jalen Brunson can get the ball to his playmakers.
Nikola Jokic.
The point center. LeBron James even. He can distribute very well. Very, very high basketball IQ. But what you can't have is you can't have a poor distributor, because we saw what the Warriors were. When they couldn't distribute effectively, they couldn't get the ball to the open guy. They couldn't get it to their playmakers as efficiently as they wanted to. So what did they do? That second unit had Jordan Poole. They got Chris Paul, the point guard. Now, it didn't turn out the way they wanted, I'm sure, but that's what they moved to get a better distributor of the basketball. And that's what the Suns need. So if Mike Budenholzer is going to come in and find success, he had Drew Holiday, who's not a bad distributor and also is a great defender. The Suns had a little bit of trouble on defense. So you need to figure out how to get there. And maybe with Budenholzer coming in and saying, hey, we need a point guard, the front office will be a little bit more open to the idea.
How are they going to get one,
though?
You
got to go budget and just hope Budenholzer can coach them up, because that's what you're banking on.
Well, they're not going to get an elite point guard.
No. You probably
maybe
can't.
They could bring back CP3. Probably the Warriors will be willing to say goodbye to him.
I don't know about that. Because who would they have? They got nobody off the bench really to distribute effectively. Moses Moody, no.
No, well, CP3 was not very effective, and
he was okay. But we're talking about a guy who's 36 years old, 37 years old, trying to be like today's point guard of scoring and assists.
They're not going to get an elite point guard. They don't have the money for it. They don't
Correct.
have the. They already have one of the highest taxes in the league. They got to do it with these three guys and find somebody that is very unselfish and wants just to distribute and plays good defense. That would be
ideal.
Somebody, I don't know. I can't think of a point guard like that.
That's available right now. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
I mean, Klay Thompson, but he's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard, and he's really regressing if you talk about his total impact.
They can't afford somebody like that.
Right, and we're talking about a guy who's trying to get paid out here like he thinks.
Rajon Rondo.
He retired this year.
He's done?
He retired.
Yeah.
So you're not, unless you try to learn him out of retirement, I doubt that.
Somebody that is maybe a little past that prime. I don't know.
It's going to be hard to see, but the Suns, hey, they have a lot of talent. The margin of error is now razor thin. It is nearly cut in half, where this team is going to have to do something, and they'll probably hit rock bottom very, very soon. All right, we're going to take about a 20-second break, but coming up, CBS Sports came out with their top 32, so the starter for every team, their quarterback power rankings, and we're going to react to some of these rankings, like I said, after this 20-second break right now.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic. So CBS Sports came out with their power rankings for their quarterbacks, and this is what the rankings look like. You can go down the entire list of 32. These are all the starters they have, which is kind of interesting when you look at like the Patriots having Jacoby Brissett instead of Drake May. That could have been a possibility. There's a few over here that are quite interesting when you talk about starters. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell. There's going to be a quarterback battle there. Also, Bo Nix is probably going to be the starter. Caleb Williams did get announced today that he's the starter. J.J. McCarthy will be the starter for the Vikings as expected. But I'm curious, do you have any problems with CBS Sports list with their power rankings?
I do. I have a lot of problems with it. Okay, I don't know how you can rank quarterbacks who are rookies that have never played a game in the NFL higher than the bottom of the list. Bo Nix at number 30. Bryce Young is behind him. I don't see how you can do that. We've never even seen him play a snap yet. Bryce Young at least had played in the NFL. He may not have played well last year, but he did play. Daniel Jones last. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, they have Jaden Daniels at number 28. He never played a game. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. Generally, Heisman Trophy winners don't do that well in the NFL, right? Jacoby Brissett at number 28. Do you think Gardner Minshew is maybe as good as Jacoby Brissett? Gardner Minshew had a good year last year. He played more than Jacoby Brissett did. Brissett sat on the bench almost the whole year. He came in right at the end. We don't know what he can do. And probably Drake May is going to wind up being the starter. They probably just didn't want to put him last. So they stuck Brissett in there at number 27. Caleb Williams at number 23. Come on. He's ahead of and J.J. McCarthy at number 25. They're ahead of Derek Carr. I don't get it. I don't get that. And then go into the other end of the spectrum here. Mahomes and Purdy. That's easy to do. They both played against each other in the Super Bowl last year. That's true. That's an uncontroversial safety call.
Are you sure about that, though?
Have them both at 1 and 2. I bet you. My bet is that you will say Purdy is not number 2.
Yeah, you nailed it on the head with that one.
But I'm not done yet. I think that C.J. Stroud should be up the list a little bit higher. Josh Allen, maybe. I don't think he's 3. I think Joe Burrow is probably better than him. But Joe Burrow didn't play last year, so I can understand why they have him a little lower. How about Lamar Jackson at number 6?
He won the MVP.
Wow, he won the MVP last year, and he's at number 6? I don't know. Jalen Hurts at 7. He didn't have such a hot season, actually. He was hurt. He was hurt part of the time. So I guess I can understand why he might be ranked a little bit lower. Dak Prescott at 8, maybe. Justin Herbert at number 9. He might be a little high there because look at the way the Chargers played last year. They played horrible. And Jordan Love at 10? Yeah, maybe. I think Jordan Love had a good season last year. Once he got it going, he really looked great near the end. And he outperformed both Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers in his first year after he came out and was able to be the starter. Aaron Rodgers at 11. We'll see. He's only on one wheel, how he's going to play this year. Tua at 12. Maybe. I actually think Jared Goff should be ahead of him.
And that's where I agree with you with. I think he should be higher.
Yeah. And, the rest of these guys are kind of in the middle of the pack. I'm not sure there's any big thing to say about any of them. Maybe Baker Mayfield is a little too low, given what a good season he had last year.
I'd put him over Russell Wilson and Gino.
Yeah. So, I'll have a little more to say about it, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, so I'm going to say, Brock Purdy should not be number 2. Because we talk about, he MVP of the league. No. Christian McCaffrey had more first-place votes. He was higher than Brock Purdy was an MVP. So, and also, if we're talking about stats-wise, Josh Allen had better passing stats. passer rating and yards per game. Yeah, passing yards, no. Josh Allen had higher. And what's funny is that this is not. I thought when I originally saw this list, I thought it was a projection of how the 2024 season will actually be. But according to CBS Sports, this is how they quote. This is how we'd sort today's signal callers right now. So this is not a projection. This is right now, which is kind of fascinating because the last time we saw Joe Burrow, he was sitting on the bench because he was hurt. The last time we saw Jalen Hurts, they were choking the end of the season, and he didn't look that great. Dak Prescott, actually, not a bad end of the season, except the playoffs are a problem. Jared Goff, I'd put him over Tua. I agree with you there. I'd put him, and that's kind of funny. Aaron Rodgers, coming off an Achilles injury, he's number 11. And what I find absolutely hilarious is, remember at the beginning of the season where I did my top 10 quarterback list, and I didn't have Danny Dimes on there, and I said he's not a top 10 quarterback? Well, lo and behold, 2022 top 10 quarterback, Daniel Jones is, dead last. No wonder. He's below a guy who currently has no redeeming qualities in the NFL of Bryce Young. None. That's how bad CBS Sports thinks Daniel Jones is. Dead last. Worse than a guy.
Do you really think he's last?
I think he should be at least bottom 3 because he was abysmal. Wow. Absolutely terrible last year.
he had not much to work with, and the offensive line, that was a sieve.
That is true, but we've seen what Sam Howell had no offensive line, and he performed decently well. He was leading. He was.
Yeah, they
top
traded
passing.
him. They traded him at the end of the year.
They did. What I find funny is that if you look at the past 2 seasons, I know this is right now. The past 2 seasons, Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence's numbers, if we're like passing yards, Trevor Lawrence has more, but also Derek Carr played 2 fewer games. So Derek Carr and Trevor Lawrence, their numbers are very, very close to one another. So the fact that they're literally on polar opposites of this ranking system, 15th and 26th, a little bit surprising, not gonna lie. But also Derek Carr didn't have the greatest year last year.
How about Deshaun Watson? What do you think about him at 17? He's about in the middle.
I don't have a horrible problem with that, but I do think Baker Mayfield did get snubbed a little bit. Russell Wilson, the numbers say he did an okay season, but Baker Mayfield's numbers say that he had a pretty damn good season. So I'd put him over, and also Geno Smith. Geno Smith regressed in a decently ugly way. I'd put Baker Mayfield above both Geno Smith and Russell Wilson. Matt Stafford, I think, should be a little bit higher. Also, Kirk Cousins left at week 8.
True.
So, and I think his talent, if we're talking about last season, he had Justin Jefferson, and now it's Drake May. I think that drop-off is pretty significant. I'd say TJ Hawkinson is better than Kyle Pitts, so the tight end talent has dropped off. Running back, I'll give it to you. Alexander Madison versus Bijan Robinson, I take Bijan Robinson. But I think Kirk Cousins is going to slide a little bit. I think Matt Stafford should be boosted up a little bit because we're talking about a guy who was Puka Nacua, who had a phenomenal year, and Cooper Kupp, who also had a pretty good year. And I think, honestly, Matt Stafford should be much higher. Jared Goff should also be higher. I would honestly put him... I'd put him in the top 10.
Who did you put at number 2 if Brock Purdy is not 2?
I would shift the list up. And honestly, truthfully...
You put Josh Allen at 2?
If we're saying all these quarterbacks are healthy, I'd put Joe Burrow too.
Wow.
Because I think
how about Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson should be higher than CJ. Yeah. I put Lamar. I put Lamar 4, Josh Allen 3. Josh Allen stays where he is. I'll put Brock Purdy at like 7th probably. CJ Stroud I think should be 6th. Let's say, does that tone? Yeah, I flipped Joe Burrow, so it's Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Then I have
Josh Allen,
Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, then Brock Purdy. I'd put Dak over Hurts. So it's Dak, Hurts, Herbert. I'd put Goff at number 10. That rounds out my top 10 probably right now. I'm not doing a full top 10 list right now, but that's probably what I would do because, yeah, Brock Purdy looked good, but
You're okay with Aaron Rodgers at 11?
No, I'm not because we saw him play 75 seconds.
Yeah.
And we don't know how he looks. We don't know how he looks in NFL action coming off an Achilles injury. So I don't hate the list, but it's also not the worst list I've ever seen. I've seen much worse lists. All right, let's get to a Friday Fun Day. I haven't brought that back in a while, so I decided to bring it back for a very short time. I gave you a paper and I said not to flip it over. You can flip it over now because the Patriots released a new alternate logo that they're taking a look at right now. The alternate logo, and this is what it looks like.
Terrible.
And I want to make sure I give the correct attribution. Patriots Drive put this logo on helmets to see what it could look like. So
they aren't going to do that, are they?
No, right now that's not the plan. But they did release a brand new alternate logo, and that's what it looks like. So I want to know, like or dislike the new Patriots logo?
I dislike it.
What's wrong with it?
It's just not. It doesn't have any flair. It doesn't. It's like it's very mechanical. It's very. I mean, this is the first time looking at it, so I didn't know that they came out with something like this. But I think it's just. I never liked their old logo that well either. The one with the Patriot.
You like Pat the Patriots?
Yeah.
Wait. You like Pat the Patriot? You don't?
No,
like it?
I'm not crazy about it. I like the existing logo a lot.
Really?
And I like the uniform that we have, the jersey that I have hanging behind me.
Oh, the
there.
shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I like. So, and I think
we'll give a quick look to that. See if we can get
Yeah, that one. It has Brady on it too. I like that. So the other thing that I would say about, I've been thinking about the Patriots and their logos and their marketing and all of that. My thought is that they should take the Patriots name, okay, and they should change the RIOT to red. Okay, it's red here, right? Riot.
Pat.
And
Riot.
then Pat should be in blue. PATS should be in blue, right? So it's a riot. the Pats are out there. They want to have a riot, and that would give them a motivation, a culture, a feeling out there that, hey, we're out here to have a riot. Let's go. We're gonna win. So that would be my advice. Stick with the logo you got and change it to Pats Riot.
What about New England? What's that color in?
New England, the NE.
The NE, yeah. Let's go there.
New England. I would, I guess I'm okay with
having
red
it whatever
blue
color.
Or white. Red, white, and blue are their colors, right?
Right.
That's the Patriots' colors. That's the American theme, red, white, and blue. So they have the right overall colors. How they distribute them here with this NE and blue, and I just don't like it. I'm sorry.
I don't hate it, but if you decide to put it on the helmet and get rid of the current logo, or even get rid of the alternate Pat the Patriot logo, I got a problem with that. Well, these are not bad renditions, but I just think it doesn't look that great. It looks way too much like for instance, we don't see a lot of logos like this in the NFL. Because the ones that mainly have this is what? The Pittsburgh Steelers are the only ones that have that circle, kind of like the NBA has. This is a very NBA type of logo.
Yeah.
The Warriors, Clippers, Celtics even have a version of this. Like this idea of the circle and everything containing the circle, it's very NBA-like. I like the way the NFL does it.
Pat Riots, that's what I think so they should be going with. Stick with the logo you got and highlight the riot and Patriots.
That's fair. All right. So you don't like this new alternate logo?
No.
By the way, Brandon Spikes accidentally leaked this on social media, I think a week back.
How did he know what it was going to be?
Because it's posted all within the facility. It's posted in like a meeting room. He posted it on social media of like a couple pictures, and the last picture was this exact logo in a meeting room on a wall. And everyone was like, oh, is this a brand new logo? And it turns out, yeah, this is a brand new alternate logo. So Brandon Spikes leaked it before the Patriots organization did. But yeah, no, I don't mind it. If you put it on jerseys or you put it on helmets, that's where I have a problem with it. Stick with the nice logos you got. The NFL, generally, we don't see that many logo changes per se. So I don't think the Patriots should be starting this idea of changing logos. So that's my take on it. All right, that wraps up today's...
I'm sorry.
Go for it. Yeah.
Didn't the Jets change their logo?
The Jets changed their logo this year.
And I thought they did the right thing. They took the football off.
Yeah, now it's very, very small,
but it's pretty appropriate given that they haven't been playing football for years. So taking the football off the logo seemed like the right thing to do.
Oh, God. No, but they have the longest playoff drought in the 4 major sports.
Yeah. I think it's going to continue.
I don't think so.
Well, they may make the playoffs, but
winning.
I don't think they win. They're going to win.
They haven't won since, what, 68?
68.
68?
68. Yeah. It's a long time ago.
New York doesn't win a lot anymore. The Yankees were the last one to win a big...
Long time, 2009.
Rangers. It's been a very, very long... Oh, no, it would be the Giants, right? 2011? I think so.
Right, Patriots.
Yeah.
I like this logo.
Yeah.
This is the one.
Well, that's not really a logo. It's more like a word play. So it's a word font. So you want the PATS in blue and then Riot in S. Or Riot in red, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that, but it's interesting. All right, now, that'll be the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Just an update on the Knicks game. We're looking at Pacers 28, Knicks 20, end of the first quarter.
Okay.
There we go. So the high score
right now.
High score for the Knicks is Dante DiVincenzo. High score for the Pacers is Tyrese Halliburton with 10 points. So we'll recap. What sucks for this show is that now they're on Fridays and Tuesdays, which kind of suck. But actually, no. I think the next game's on Thursday. That's good for us. We'll talk about that on Friday. Oh, we got some good games. We might be witnessing Timberwolves, or what I say, is that a Friday? No, I think it's on Saturday or Monday. I forget what day it is. But yeah, no, we could be potentially recapping a Timberwolves sweep of the Nuggets coming up very, very shortly, depending on the outcome of the game. Knicks, we'll see what they do tonight. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, we thank you so much for watching. We thank you for the continuous support. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Hi, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security.